Jesse, welcome back. Great to have you.
Megyn, I feel like this is going to make me sound old, but I have two boys too. And I know exactly what Abby is going through because I used to, like when I grew up, when we were kids, I remember the cousins would come over to the house on Friday night and the parents would eventually kick us all downstairs and we were all done. And we would turn on ABC. I'm almost positive it was ABC. Thank God it's Friday, ABC. And we would sit and watch Full House and Family Matters and all these shows that were just normal families, and they taught, values, don't steal, don't lie, that kind of a thing. And I feel like I'm not that old, but man, I would never do that with my sons now, not in a million years. You couldn't.
No, you're 100% right. My little guy, Thatcher, he's 9. He was just asking me, Mom, what's your favorite television series ever? And he was looking specifically for a series. And first I said The Practice, because I absolutely love that by David E. Kelly. I could watch that over and over and over. But then I corrected myself. I said, actually, my favorite ever was Little House on the Prairie. I watched it my entire childhood. And then he said, how long did you watch it? And I said, I got to be honest, I watched it through my young 30s. I was practicing law in Manhattan. It was like a stress reliever for me. I'd put it on. And it's just like good values and good stories and sort of reinforcement in a family of family values, It's crazy what they're putting on television today.
It's insane. Honestly, the commercials are worse than what the listen to how old we sound. But it's true. The commercials are as bad as anything that's on the actual TV. And I think part of this is just I want to go back to that America where, and it's not that I want to park my kids in front of the TV all day. I would like it to be an option. I've got to go do some chores around the house. I can't watch it. Yeah. Can I leave you there for an hour? I would never do that. Now, I'd rather leave them with a table saw.
It's so true. Wait a minute. We might as well just go to that story because we're on it and it's shocking. It was being tweeted around today. And let me just make sure I have my facts correct. Okay, so it's on the Disney Channel. It is a show called The Proud Family, Louder and Prouder, which is a reboot from a series that first launched back in 2001. It hit Disney Plus in early 2022. So season 2 just dropped. It's got 10 new episodes, and it's about a girl named Penny Proud and her family. All right, so this is supposed to be, according to Disney, laugh out loud stories while highlighting culturally specific experiences of the Black community and addressing universal topics. Well, okay, here's a little snippet of what Disney Plus is offering our children now as just a quick look at, let's say, America.
This country was built on slavery, which means slaves built this country. Tilled this land from sea to sea to sea. First there was rice, tobacco, sugar cane. Then Whitney did his thing and cotton became king. And we were its soldiers, 4 million strong. Fighting for America's freedoms, even though we remained America's slaves. Built this country. The descendants of slaves continue to build this. Slaves built this country. And we, the descendants of slaves in America, have earned reparations for their suffering. And continue to earn reparations every moment we spend submerged in the systemic prejudice, racism, and white supremacy that America was founded with and still has not atoned for. We made your families rich. From the southern plantation heirs to the northern bankers to the New England ship owners, the founding fathers, former presidents, current senators,
the Illuminati, the New World Order.
Slaves built this country. We had Tubman, Turner,
Frederick D.
Didn't they say Lincoln freed the slaves?
But slaves were men.
And women. And only we can free ourselves. Emancipation is not freedom. Jim Crow, segregation, redlining, public schools, feeding private prisons, where we become slaves again. As we celebrate Juneteenth for the umpteenth time, our account is still outstanding. Cause this country was built on slavery, which means slaves built this country. And we demand our 40 acres and a mule. Bump that! You can keep the mule.
Keep the 40.
We're taking our freedom.
Oh my God. Jesse.
Megyn, this goes to something that I think actually the right, if I could speak at least briefly for the right, has failed on. And I volunteer that I am very much part of this. I've been part of this. For how many years has the right said things like some idiot actor or actress will get up at the Oscars and give some crazy left-wing political speech and will say something like, no one cares what George Clooney thinks, or LeBron James will say something stupid. Well, no one cares what LeBron James thinks. Well, that's not true at all. If you go look at the following of these people, there are millions and millions and millions of people who do care. entertainment is actually a critical cultural pillar. I mean, look, they were putting on plays in Roman times. We have TV now. It's part of guiding your culture for what you want them to be and what you don't want them to be. It's just more than anything, this is a reflection of what our culture has become. Just a big bunch of grievance mongering whiners. Everybody has something they hate about America. America sucks because of this and it sucks because of that. And again, they're started when the kids are as small as can be. This is on Nickelodeon Junior. It's not just Disney Plus. Kids platforms across the board, they're all this filth now.
This is filth. This is absolute filth. Reparations, and we still want reparations. Systemic prejudice, racism, white supremacy still hasn't been atoned for. We made you rich. I mean, the anger that they put in the mouths of these little kids. Meanwhile, as if any little kid walking around America today is like, we want reparations. They're trying to plant these ideas early.
Think about how crazy this is. Somebody like you've been on the Manhattan legal scene. That's about as cutthroat business world gets. How crazy is it, Megyn, that Disney is coming fresh off a year where board members, CEO got the axe. Board members are sitting there looking at profit loss sheets showing $140 billion gone. Imagine having to present that to your board and how you're going to turn that around. And after all those losses, they choose to double and triple down on everything that has turned off American families. Right. It's honestly a little bit scary if you think about it. How many high-powered jobs there are that operate with no regard for their job or no regard for the fiduciary responsibility to the shareholder at all. It's all activism all the time. It's crazy that this is allowed to go on in the boardroom. It's
like they're trying to make these children hate America. Hate America. It's literally the opposite of what you get in China, where it's like mandatory nationalism, mandatory, homage to the flag, which pieces of it are appealing. This is the opposite, trying to make them hate the country from a very tender age. And honestly, just the racism of it. Okay, so this is a channel that's supposed to appeal, I guess, to Black families. What Black families? What they just assume Black families all hate America and want to talk about demand reparations and how we haven't made it past slavery. Like who are the Black families they're hanging out with?
Well, that's actually a good question, Megyn, because this is a big problem we have. In that America is so divided now. Now, that's a very common thing to say. We're divided, but let me explain for a second. We have urban America. You have LA, New York, Chicago, and I love those cities. Actually, I have a blast in all of them. But they are very, very separate and very different from the values of the vast sea of the land of America. If you look at like a congressional map of America, it's all red. You look at it and think, wow, that must be the most Republican country ever. But it's not, because all the entertainment is only made in those tiny areas. And even the people who make these Disney shows and crap like that, they live, work, and worship exclusively around people who share nothing in common with what people would consider to be flyover country. Therefore, there's no equal representation of values anymore on television because none of those people have any connection to how normal people live or what normal people go through. That's the truth.
I do feel it bears mention that there was a story yesterday that the son of the sitting president was caught on tape, like one of the other things he had on his laptop, asking some assistant to put a camera on herself in the shower so he could get off watching her. He managed to get her into bed. He filmed it. There's pictures of him like behind her. It's just absolutely, every story about him is absolutely disgusting. He's a disgusting, loathsome human being. Right? He's what they wanted to make Donald Trump Jr. into, but never could. That's what Hunter is. But really, they're worried about the Hunter influence peddling scheme with China. I mean, that's where the real story is. What were they paying him for? What did they get in return? And as that story ramps up, because House Republicans now have control of the House, we get Hunter Biden fighting back. Jesse, he's fighting. He's sick and tired. He's not going to take it anymore. So he's actually threatening legal action, purporting to be, trying to get criminal authorities involved, potential civil actions against Fox, against the computer repair guy, and others. He's really pissed off at Marco Polo. You ever use Marco Polo, that social media app. My one friend Joelle loves it. She's like, MK, send me a message on Marco Polo. It's basically just you talking, and then you send a video of yourself talking. You could do the same thing on your iPhone messaging. He's mad about Marco Polo because apparently they participated. They posted some laptop contents. Anyway, I could go down the list, but the point is he's trying to look like a tough guy now. And it's a total shift in strategy from what we've had the past 3 years. What was the date of the New York Post posting the laptop disinformation? Now it's his suddenly, Jesse, and he's the victim.
It's starting to smell a little bit like a railroad out of politics job for Joe Biden to me. And this is what I mean by it, Megyn. As soon as I saw that he was trying to bring up criminal charges on Tucker Carlson and all kinds of people like that, I thought to myself, this reeks like actually desperation more than anything else. Because think about how much work the federal government has done to cover for the Bidens. This is something people forget about when we talk about Hunter and the laptop. An important thing to understand is the Federal Bureau of Investigation had possession of the Hunter Biden laptop and knew what was on it in 2019. Prior to the election, the Federal Bureau of Investigation knew that Hunter Biden was tied in with his father and knew he had some shady, to put it mildly, ties with hostile criminal actors, foreign actors. The FBI knew this, and they chose to cover up all this information on behalf of the Biden family. This is an FBI cover-up. That's the story here. So they cover it up. Then they intercept, because they're spying on everybody involved, they intercept the fact that the New York Post is getting ready to run with the story on their cover-up. Then they choose to go public with all of it. And then the classified documents began to be found, except they're all being found right now by Democrats. You notice that, Megyn? It's not Republican operatives low crawling into Joe Biden's garage in Delaware and with little pen lights in the middle of the night, finding which documents are classified, like in the movies. These are all Democrats. It's Biden's people. It's Biden's lawyers. It's Biden's DOJ. It's Biden's FBI, the same FBI that just covered for him. I say that they've run a cover-up for the Biden family for so long, and the Bidens thought they were going to get away with it for so long, and now they're very clearly getting a controlled demolition on Joe Biden's time in office, and I think this is just a desperate Hunter Biden that knows he's going to be the one that they're going to use to railroad Joe out of office. How about that for a crazy conspiracy theory? But that's my theory.
Well, honestly, it's like Andy McCarthy had a piece that said, keep your eye on the ball. Don't fall for this, right? This is a sideshow. The president's loser son, actually, he said troubled and unstable. He's not as mean as I am, is beside the point, except to the extent that his supposed business acumen was the pretext for all the money flows. What we need to know is what did the Chinese believe they were buying? And so why now? Why is Hunter, this lawsuit has absolutely no chance, zero chance. The guy apparently signed a user agreement when he dropped off the laptop with the computer repairman, which everybody does, saying if you leave it here for too long a time, it's abandoned and I can do with it what I want. Otherwise, everybody would be holding on to old laptops and old phones and old TVs that they couldn't repair forevermore. They'd never be able to throw them away. So all electronics repair facilities and other facilities like this have agreements like that, and the law will protect him. So it was abandoned. And that's why the guy was able to access whatever he wanted on there. And these arguments Hunter's making against that repairman and others are absolutely specious, meaning absurd to the point where they're absolutely not supported at all. They're frivolous. So why, you do have to ask, why is he doing this? Why? And let me just set it up, Jesse, because just a quick walk down memory lane. Here he was interviewed during his book tour about the laptop after the New York Post and tried to publish it. And we were all told, no, disinformation. Here he was when I think it was CBS tried to press him very gently on it.
Was that your laptop?
Well, one,
for real,
this
I don't
is something
know.
people
I know, but
do
you
in
know
their
that's
30s.
this
I
is
really don't know.
Okay.
The answer is.
You don't
the
know
truthful
yes
answer.
or no if the laptop
I don't have
was
any
yours.
idea. I have no idea.
So
whether or
could
not.
have been yours.
Of course, certainly. There could be a laptop out there that was stolen from me. There could be that I was hacked. It could be that it was Russian intelligence. It could be that it was stolen from me. Look, I really don't know. And the fact of the matter is, it's a red herring. It is absolutely red herring. But I am absolutely, I think, within my rights to question anything that comes from the desk of Rudy Giuliani. And so I don't know is the answer.
Okay, great. Are we going to get follow-up? We're going to get in-depth reporting from all those organizations on how outraged they were that they were lied to? I don't think so.
Remember when the press was doing their lovey-dovey book tour thing on his behalf too, Megyn, when he was going around doing all these videos, and they were all talking about what I think it was CNN talked about, what an inspirational story. Brian Stelter, when he used to work at CNN, talking about how this is just a real inspirational story, the Hunter Biden thing, and how the Trump people, those dirty Trump people, keep lying about him, and they always reference Rudy Giuliani because they think that's somehow going to absolve Hunter of everything. But can we pause for a brief moment on this? On top of being a drug addict and a compulsive liar and everything else you can say about Hunter Biden, I mean, the brazen lies in those interviews. Oh, I don't know if it was my laptop or not. Come on. Who records all of their crimes, Megyn? And now you're one of these smart legal people. I find it to be the most bizarre thing because I do the best I can to stay on the right side of the law. I've probably flirted with the wrong side a time or two. But you know what I didn't do? Record every single one of them and then save it on a laptop and then drop off the laptop for repairs. The first two steps were dumb enough, but then having recorded every crime I've ever committed, allow me to take the evidence, drop it off at a laptop repair shop, and then just cruise off as if everything's going to be fine. There's something weird here, Megyn, almost like he wants to get caught. Does that make sense? There's something wrong with this guy beyond just what we can see.
I don't know. It is starting to feel like, is there a connection between all these classified documents being found at Joe Biden's houses that Hunter Biden had access to, and now him making this move? Just like all of it is starting to feel a little too connected and a little too coincidental. I'm starting to get like the Spidey sense that we need to dig and we needed to dig hard. And what looked at first like a House hearing that was worthwhile, like we should probe, but I was like, Now I'm starting to feel like it's absolutely imperative. Actually, we really need to get to the bottom. Like Comer said, that the head of the oversight committee said, this is actually getting downright scary.
Yeah, well, look, let's go back to the Chinese spy satellite that we were just talking about. Megyn, what if, I mean, that's Joe Biden's son. I don't know about you, but for my sons, I would commit any number of crimes. I just would. They're my sons. I love them to death. What if the Chinese have extremely damaging information on Hunter Biden? I'm not talking about just some booger sugar with some European hookers. What if they have real black and white criminal crimes that they have evidence of? What if the Russians do? What if the Ukrainians do? How hard is it for them to get on the phone with Joe Biden and say, hey, we need you to look the other way on X, Y, and Z, or this information is going to be at NBC News tonight? These are legitimate questions the American people have a right to know. Is the president of the United States of America compromised by our enemies because of his son and his connections to his son? That's not a small thing. It's a big thing.
Oh, my God. That is a disturbing thought. My team pulled this up. You were right. CNN's reliable sources, remember that show? Briefly pivoted from a show dedicated to bashing conservative media on Sunday to become an infomercial. Not sure who I'm quoting, otherwise I would attribute this. To become an infomercial for Hunter Biden's new memoir. This is, I guess, Fox News. As left-wing host Brian Stelter gushed, it was extraordinary and breathtaking. Stelter teased the segment about Biden's new memoir, Beautiful Things, I forgot it was called that, by claiming the real human being who differs from the caricature of the president's son would be revealed in the book. Real human. Beautiful things. Extraordinary, breathtaking.
Just the name alone. What a bunch of hippie crap all this stuff is. It was really breathtaking for Brian Stelter. And again, this is why I think this whole lawsuit stuff is just desperation. This is clearly a human being. I mean, we look at him like a kid. At least I do. I feel like he's a kid because probably he screws up so much. He's in his 50s, Megyn. This guy's a grandpa, I think, or at least could be at this point in time. So they've covered for him his entire life. His entire life, he's used to daddy and daddy's media covering for him. I bet it is quite a culture shock for him to all of a sudden find out he is in real legal trouble because he doesn't pay his taxes. He's done all these criminal things before, and they want his dad, I believe, they want his dad out of office. I bet he is a little taken aback by the fact that it's even possible for him to get in any legal trouble at all.
I should attribute that story about the assistant to the Daily Mail that was there, I think, exclusive reporting on it. Absolutely disgusting. And at the time, for all of this, with the assistant and so on, he was, of course, addicted to crack. And the New York Post reminds us, had unrestricted access to his father's Wilmington, Delaware home where classified documents were improperly stored. Okay, so Jesse, drama over at CNN. The New York Post with quite an exclusive on, first of all, the morning show over there. You're going to be shocked to learn is in, basement dweller territory when it comes to the ratings. It's an absolute failure. CNN this morning, this is from earlier reporting, suffered its lowest week. I think this is as of through January 22nd, its lowest week since launch, which was only 3 months ago. They averaged 331,000 viewers. Just for reference, Fox and Friends had nearly 1 million. Even Morning Joe is up to 760,000, which is good for that show. They're down at 331,000 viewers on that show. No one's watching. Well, that can really upset the anchors, apparently, because behind the scenes, it's not going much better. According to the New York Post, in an exclusive report, Don Lemon screamed at his co-host, Caitlin Collins. According to two sources with knowledge, says the New York Post, Lemon approached Collins following the show's Thursday, December 8th broadcast and unloaded on her in front of staffers as he accused her of interrupting him on air. Quote, Don screamed at Caitlin, who was visibly upset, and ran out of the studio. And it was over, reportedly, this incident here. We've gone back and pulled the exchange between the two of them that we believe this was based on from that day of air. Watch this.
We are told that we're standing by for the President of the United States.
It's been 10 months since she's been held in captivity.
At 8:30 this morning. I expected to speak at the White House at any moment now.
And one
he
thing
was
to
briefed.
watch.
Stand by 1 second. He was briefed. Did you want to wait?
No, I think we should bring in Jonathan Franks.
Okay. So there was some interrupting. It happens when you co-host a show. It happens. I hosted a show with Bill Helmer for 3 years. I was on the air with Brett Baer more times than I can count. And sometimes somebody gets on your nerves. What you don't do is scream at them after the fact. Later you say, oh, we stepped on each other. Oh, it's all about servicing the audience if you're a professional. If you're a douchebag, you scream at the woman next to you and blame it on her.
Yeah, I generally try to avoid screaming at the various people who work for me around the studio here, Megyn. I find it, as an adult, it works better if you don't scream at people like they're children. But here's the real problem. Yeah,
you're supposed to have a good rapport with on the air.
Don Lemon doesn't have the talents to continue to bring baggage. The rule number one of employment always is make sure your talent outweighs your baggage, because we all have baggage, right? Everyone has something. But Don Lemon is not an interesting person. People forget when Don Lemon had his own nighttime show on CNN, it sucked. And it sucked so bad for so long, they eventually brought in Cuomo, who was doing the show beforehand, to do Don Lemon's A Block. Now, let me explain this to people. When you do TV, A Block is the opening of your show. It goes A, B, C, D, and you can do the math from there. A Block is also the most important block because it is the most watched block on your show. So Don Lemon sucked so bad that he was unable to carry the A Block, the most important block of his own show. They had to keep the previous host there to carry the A Block with him. Then he gets kicked down to morning time. Now he already got a demotion, and everyone knows it was a demotion. He's only still around because he's a black gay dude, and everybody knows it. This is not an interesting person. He doesn't have anything at all funny or informative to say whatsoever. He's already been demoted, frankly been demoted twice when you consider the Cuomo thing. And now he's chewing out Stafford's. Don, buddy, unless you want to go down to the mailroom, which frankly is where you belong, I would make sure I'm minding my P's and Q's if I couldn't do TV and yet somebody gave me a television show.
It's so true. He better be careful because honestly, that show's on its last legs before it even got on its first legs. And I will say, Caitlin Collins is a competent reporter. She's somebody, I wonder whether the politics have anything to do with it, but if I'm not mistaken, she was an intern for Hannity at one point. She started off, I think, at Fox. So listen, I don't think she's a right winger at all, but I think she's probably more balanced than Don Lemon certainly is. I mean, you'd have to be. And you can sense the tension. And they don't have a good rapport at all. And I don't think CNN is interested in getting rid of her. So here's the thing, though. Again, I've co-hosted more hours than I can count with a lot of guys with big egos, appropriately big egos. And never have I screamed at a colleague after like a co-host or had him scream at me. We've had charged disagreements. Had a charged disagreement with Chris Wallace one time. We were never screaming at each other, and you pick it up right after. If somebody ever screamed at me to the point where I was visibly upset and ran out of the studio, I would have that person fired. I would make sure that person was fired. And I'll tell you something. If that is true, the New York Post's report, Jesse, then I will say that's not the first time he's done it. I will go out on a limb right now and tell you that's not the first time. There will be another woman, if the New York Post digs, who he's co-anchored with, I guarantee you, who's going to come out and say, me too. Because if you behave like that toward a colleague with whom you share the air and you share the show, this will not be the first time. So I do wonder.
Oh, 1,000%. You just nailed it. If you are the type of person who views that as being an option to treat a coworker in that way, like that, you just think that that's something that you can do, then you've done it before and you've gotten away with it before. And this is the problem. CNN has let him get away with it before because there are going to be more. I guarantee there'll be more. And CNN will have to start admitting, well, we did have this person file a report a couple years ago. We just chose not to do anything. It'll all come rolling out now that they've been. Again, I don't understand why they've been coddling this guy. There are plenty of people out there, there's so much talent out there, television-wise, from local to otherwise. Why are you hanging on to Don Lemon? He sucks.
Yes. And honestly, there's a lot of great people who are Black and great people who are gay. Like because Don Lemon did say, I'm Black and I'm gay, as Jeff Zucker was on his way out. I mean, he actually reminded us of that on the air to keep his job. So even if they're trying to check an identity box, you can do it with some very talented people, not named Don Lemon. But that's an interesting question you just raised because it could potentially have been documented. HR could potentially have a record. I wonder whether this went to HR. If his name were Tucker Carlson, they'd be digging through those files right now, right? Like, does CNN have any desire to do that? Will there be follow-up? Is he that untouchable that whatever he does is no problem? Here's what CNN is saying. Doesn't certainly sound like they're getting ready to look into his history or ask any more questions. They say to Mediaite, which posted the story and asked for a follow-up, the Post's account is wildly overblown and 2 months old. Well, that's a deflection. We know it's 2 months old. The original report by the Post said it happened December 8th. Don, Caitlin, and Poppy, that's the third co-host, were friends before they were co-anchors, and they remain friends today. Again, that's a dodge. What does that mean? Did he do it or didn't he? Did he scream at her to the point where she ran down the hall visibly upset, or didn't she, in front of staffers? And then Mediaite goes on, despite CNN formally pushing back, Mediaite can confirm that the events described by the Post are largely true, though Lemon's alleged screaming is being overplayed. Okay, so let's see. Let's find out, because right now we're being told that Chris Licht, who's now running the joint, was reportedly appalled by his behavior. And that actually told him to take the next day off to cool off. They say the Post, at this point, Caitlin Collins wants to be on set with Don as little as possible. So that conflicts with CNN's statement that they're still friends. And that's basically where it stands. I don't know, Jesse. I feel like these are the same people who, Don Lemon's out there every night when he was on his primetime show lecturing us about how we need to be better people. Everybody's a racist. If you voted for Trump, you're a terrible racist, white supremacist. And this is how he's treating people? Okay. Says something.
A lot of this stuff, sorry for interrupting, Megyn, don't scream at me. A lot of this stuff comes back to Trump. I believe, I've always believed this, that he created a media bubble, that a lot of these cable news channels were kind of getting stale and dying as people are cutting the cord and they're finding different ways to consume news. And that Trump came along, and Trump was, love him or hate him, so interesting that he brought eyeballs no matter what. So if you're a dork like Don Lemon and you don't have any talent, you can still go sit down on CNN and talk about Donald Trump for an hour and get ratings because Trump is interesting. So he brings the interesting. And then the second Trump is gone, he's not president anymore. Well, you're still stuck there not being interesting, and you can't talk about Trump every single night. And I think this has plagued a lot more than CNN and Don Lemon. I think it's killed a lot of them. You spent 4 years not getting better personally, not getting better as a network, not bringing in new talent, not cultivating people who actually have something to say. You spent 4 years just screaming, Trump, 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 for an hour every single night, and it brought you ratings, and you fooled yourself into thinking you have talent. You don't have talent. Trump's interesting. Now he's gone. Now you're boring again.
Yeah, you're right. Because you know what's interesting about Don Lemon? Because I used to know Lemon, and actually we used to be kind of friendly. And Trump broke him in the same way he broke CNN and he broke Jeff Zucker and he broke so many broadcasters in particular. He broke him to the point where, like, Lemon used to be more sort of, I don't know, like, I remember him once quoting with favor the Bill Cosby message of like, pull up your damn pants, like, come on, like, be upstanding, treat family well, and all that stuff. Now, of course, we realize that that messenger had problems back then too, Bill Cosby. But then he got wokeified, started casting his judgment on everybody. He was totally on board the woke racism train, no matter what the story was, and became just derisive of half the country. You remember that sneering clip with him with the guy from Lincoln Project? Oh, God. It was, I can't remember the two guys' names. Wajahat.
Rick Wilson, I think.
Ali
Or
and
Steve
Rick
Schmidt or
Wilson. And the three of them like, I can't even spell your Ukraine, or Ukraine. And they were doing their middle whatever. It was so pejorative and dismissive of half the country, anybody who supported Trump. And then he went on to say, if you voted for Trump on his show, backed it up on his show that you're a racist if you voted for him.
Well, you mentioned a great word, dismissive of half the country. We talked a little bit earlier tonight, actually, about how they're all in LA, they're all in New York, they're all in their own little extremely blue areas, and that's why they're making crappy movies and crappy cable shows, and they don't ever speak to normal people. Well, it comes back to them being dismissive of normal people. People will get confused, especially people on the right, of I don't understand why don't they want to appeal to me? Why aren't they just staying neutral? Why not try to appeal to me? They despise you. These people are dismissive of you. They despise you. They do mock you, and you didn't go to Wharton School of Business. You didn't go to NYU. You're just some stupid rube. All you know how to do is farm. You probably can't even spell. That is how these people view you. They're not trying to appeal to you. They would never try to appeal to you. The same way you wouldn't try to walk out and reason with the slug crawling across the sidewalk. That's how these people look at you. They would never come try to speak to you, speak to your values, represent you in any way. They look at you as simply beneath them. And people feel that now. Half the country feels that. It's not hard, Megyn. I know you see it when you turn on the TV to feel spoken down to. No, I don't want my child to wear a mask on a plane. No, I think this mask is stupid. The way they speak to you, like you're some stupid idiot, anti-science murderer at all times. The country feels it. It's ugly.
Their rage toward you, anybody who disagrees with them or isn't woke is real. But their outrage so often seems performative. Is he really that upset about this, that, or the other? And he's trying to juice up his ratings. So Republicans got booted off of the January 6th committee. They couldn't have who they wanted there. And now they're turning it around. And they booted, Schiff got kicked off of Intel, and Ilhan Omar just got kicked off of Foreign Affairs, with the Republicans saying she's an anti-Semite, or she certainly at least made a lot of anti-Semitic comments. So bye. Well, of course, underdog, AOC rushes to the rescue this is the worst bit of acting I've seen in a long time. It could be what was it, Ishmael, that everybody used to say was the worst movie ever made? This is Ishmael territory. Here's AOC on the House floor yesterday trying to act like, you tell me who she's trying to imitate here. Watch, SOT 10.
Also, one of the disgusting legacies after 9/11 has been the targeting and racism against Muslim Americans throughout the United States of America, and this is an extension of that legacy. There is nothing consistent with the Republican Party's continued attack except for the racism and incitement of violence against women of color in this body. This is about targeting women of color in the United States of America.
Okay. We cut the part where she threw her notebook at the end and she really sort of revs up her preacher accent, and in this country, whatever. Okay. You're from Yorktown Heights, okay, which is a lovely suburb in Westchester. Should just stop. But what do you make of underdog in to save the day?
I think the worst mistake she made there actually wasn't the hand motions. The worst mistake she made was the looking down at the speech that she had clearly written in practice beforehand. If you're going to do the moral outrage thing, this is about women of color, then it really helps if you don't have to go, this is about women of color. It doesn't come off nearly as genuine, but look, it's true. They do this very, very well. The left in this country, they've really mastered something, and the right, frankly, is so far behind on it, they don't realize what they're doing. The toddler that pitches the fit in the grocery store because mom won't buy him ice cream sandwiches, and he lays down and starts screaming and yelling, You pick that child, you either ignore that child and leave him there screaming and yelling, you pick him up and whap him on the rear end, or you do something. But what you don't do is you don't give him the ice cream sandwiches to calm him down. But the right has been handing out ice cream sandwiches for so long to these people. They've learned it's clownish as that looks. You're rolling your eyes. I'm rolling my eyes. Everyone's rolling their eyes. As clownish as that looks, that has worked for the left for a long time. Just start pounding the table and screaming and yelling. And of course, you got to throw in racist and misogynistic and whatever word. Shoot, throw them all in. Whatever. Make a bunch of noise. And that has scared Republicans into giving the left things for a very long time. When I see clowns like that and clownish behavior like that, I actually blame the right because you're the one that's rewarded that. Of course, the toddler's still in the grocery aisle screaming. You rewarded him the last 10 times. Start ignoring him and he'll stop screaming.
What do you make of this kicking Ilhan Omar off of Foreign Affairs because of her anti-Semitic comments?
I support the move. I just don't like the way it was done. I think it was done completely wrong. The right move to do was to kick her off the committee. The wrong move to do was to act like it's because of some comments she made or because she's an anti-Semite or something like that. I'm sure she is an anti-Semite. She hates Israel. Of course, I get that. But that's not why she was kicked off. She was kicked off for revenge. She was kicked off for retribution because they did it to us. I don't like this mealy-mouthed way of politics where you have to pretend like it was for a different reason. Hey, we kicked Ilhan Omar off. Why? Because you kicked our people off. Let this be a lesson to you. If you kick our people off again, we'll kick your people off again. If you'd like this game to stop, then stop doing it and we'll stop it. This was about revenge and retribution. I think it looks weak when you kick her off for revenge and then make up some excuse. Well, we had to be nice to Israel. That's not why you kicked her off. So be honest about it.
That's a good point. What do they get? Schiff and Swalwell off of Intel, which, I mean, of course that should have happened. I mean, how Swalwell was still on. I try never to even talk about him. He's just like one of the most abhorrent people in Congress. In any event, so now they kicked off, I think, 2 from January 6th. Now the Republicans have 3, so maybe it ends there and they make their point. If it continues on forever, I mean, Congress has changed fundamentally. And I don't know whether that's a good thing or not. Jesse Kelly, you're a good thing. Such a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you, my friend, and have a great weekend.
Thank you for having me on, Megyn. Enjoy your weekend. I'll talk to you soon.
All the best. And I should mention that Jesse and the First are now taking over the new Newsmax slot. You know, Newsmax went away. They didn't strike a deal with DirecTV. The First is going on there. So you may be sad about your Newsmax friends, but the First has people like Jesse Kelly, Dana Lash, a lot of our friends. So you'll love that.